To vote again? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Director Cicada? Here. Director Thomas?
I'm here.
Director Ratterman?
Here.
Director Underhill?
Here.
President Davidson?
Here. Okay, we'll move on to public comment. This time, members of the public may address the board on any non-agendized item. Public is encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda for board consideration. No action will be taken on matters not listed on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Item 3A, the following items are expected to be routine, non-controversial. Items will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member may request that an item be removed for later discussion. 3A, approval of minutes of board meeting of May 26, 2021. 3B, resolution of support for nomination of Michael Minkler for Aqua Region 3 board member position. And 3C, ratify claim summary number 59 in the secretarial. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Do we have to call the roll? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to public hearing for our annual standby assessment fees. Do I have to open the public hearing or do we? Okay, so we will open the public hearing. Are we going to take them all at once or do we have to do them still individually?
You can do one unified motion for all.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adopt the annual standby assessment fees for Indian Rock Vineyards Subdivision Sewer, West Point Improvement District 3, Water, Evans Pass Improvement District 5, Water, Jenny Lynn Improvement District 6, Copper Cove Improvement District 7, including Copper, Apples Townsite Water, Saddle Creek Subdivision Improvement District 7, Water, Copper Cove, La Cantina Improvement District 8S Sewer. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Director Underhill, second by Director Thomas. Is there any public comment or is there any staff report or anything that we need to do for public comment here? Or for the public hearing?
Open it up to public comment.
Okay, we are opening it up for public comment. Do we have anybody online or anything?
To staff.
Staff members.
Staff members? Okay. All right, so then we close the public hearing and vote? Okay, so I will close the public hearing. Please call the roll.
Director Cicada?
Yes.
Director Thomas?
Yes.
Director Ratterman?
Yes.
Director Underhill?
Yes.
And President Davidson?
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to new business discussion action to accept the 2-year audit of the district sanitary sewer management plan. Damon?
Good afternoon, President Davidson, directors. Rebecca, do you have that? Awesome, thank you. So the sanitary sewer management plan is a state requirement, and it's designed to ensure the effective operation of the district's sewer collection system. Some of the key processes that it follows and ensures are operating effectively are sewer line cleaning, inspections, and implementation of the fat, oil, and grease program. So if you guys recall, a couple of years back, we did a 5-year update, and this is now the 2-year audit of the 5-year update. So really what this is designed to do is just to make sure that the district goes ahead and reviews all the contact information and updates the overall SSMP with any new processes that may have been implemented. So some of the processes that we did recently implement and we incorporated into this 2020 update were, if you could advance the next slide, please, Becca. The next one. Awesome, thank you. We implemented mobile MMS and we updated the mission statement, the vision statement, and we made all updates to the incorporation of the new construction maintenance manager position and all contact information for field staff and operations. We also had the new collection system supervisor as well during this past couple of years. If you could advance the next slide. And those are the updates. If you could advance one more. Thank you. So here's a graphic. You guys can see a couple slides into the presentation, mobile MMS update. So now our collections crew can actually incorporate all of their work efforts onto a schedule in the computer maintenance management system, and it'll spit out any work order that they need to complete during the year. So some of those items are quarterly, it'll spit out the quarterly work effort, monthly work effort, and so on. And so there's a depiction of the collection system and the water system in mobile MMS. And if you could advance the next slide, thank you. We also incorporated the fact that we now have 2 cleaning trailers. One's brand new. We refurbished the second. Next slide. And we also incorporated the new gap vacs into the SSMP. And we discussed smoke testing, which you've seen some of these pictures before. And the next one. So these are, if you recall, are Douglas Flat Vallecito. So we push heated vegetable oil through the collection system. And then we go find any areas of exposure where we see that there's openings into the sewage system, sources of inflow and infiltration. And then we go ahead and cap those and patch those. It's really effective. The key to smoke testing is to have an effective public notification system ahead of time, because you can really raise a lot of flags if they see smoke coming out of the ground all over the place, right? And so this picture, I always love this one. Picture on the left is of our collection system supervisor, Amos, holding what everybody affectionately calls a Yeti, which is a giant hairball that has taken the shape of a pipe and has been pulled out. So the SSMP is really designed to resolve issues like this that occur over time. So staff's recommendation is that the board go ahead and approve this 2-year audit and update for the SSMP.
What is it called?
Did you say a
Hairball?
hairball?
Well, we call it a Yeti.
Yeti?
Yeah, yes,
YETI?
yes, correct. So when you hear the collections crew talk about all the Yetis they've pulled out of the system over the past couple weeks, now you know what they're referring to.
Oh.
I think
Oh.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be just after lunch, you know.
I'll bet it's not only hair in there.
Is there any way that, you guys are always talking about redwood tanks, maybe we could, sell this for like extensions.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We can develop our own line of wigs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Michael.
All right, so the action item here is to approve this, accept this 2-year plan? Does that
Correct.
Take a motion or?
I'll make a motion.
Well, I got a comment. We can do the motion.
Yeah, I have a question also.
Okay, well, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any board comments?
Yeah, I really liked, I saw it in here earlier, and I can't find it right now, the organization chart, that one's name on it. I really like that. What I was kind of worried about is all everyone's cell phone numbers, everyone's cell phone numbers being in this report. Is that necessary? And now it's on our agenda, so now anyone who wanted to contact anyone in engineering or
Yeah,
or one of the cell phone for the customer service reps in the front
Right.
office.
yeah. So
I'm sure it's a public record.
yeah, so the district
is it?
cell phone, yeah. And so the state really wants to know that if we need to get a hold of Michael,
Yeah.
or if somebody needs to get a hold of me, or whoever's going to implement the public information plan, that they can be accessed. And so it's one of those items that, yeah, it's always kind of a little hanky when you have to send that out, but yep,
Right. Interesting.
yeah.
Anything else from the board?
Yes, and then going through the claim summary, your statement in here is that we own these or we're buying them?
Oh, you mean the VACONs?
Uh-huh.
Correct. So we own 4, right? And we replaced As one gets beyond its useful life, it's still on its last legs, we will go ahead and decommission it. And that was the one where we purchased a Gap Vax last fiscal year to replace it. And then we anticipate delivery of the next VAC brand new one after July 1. And then we'll be able to then decommission one of the older ones. So we'll go from essentially 5 back down to 3. But right now we're kind of in a sweet spot where we can still make use of our really old VAC and we also have a brand new one.
And then we'll sell it.
Correct. Yep, we will surplus those old Vector trucks.
And that's enough trucks for the field.
Yes. Yep.
Damon, is there like an on-site use? I mean, I realize that we're not gonna be able to drive these things, but do they have a value at some of our treatment plants if we just kept them there and didn't sell them?
Yes, that is a great question, and you're absolutely right. We have sewage tanks, solids tanks at our waste treatment facilities, which we could really make use of a piece of equipment like that, and we can just keep it on the property like copper.
Well, we could also move it by trailer, right?
Correct. Yep.
Like,
They're
so-
quite big, but yes, we actually have 2 that are 2003 vintage. So we could keep one at La Quintana, one at Copper Cove, which are 2 of our key wastewater treatment facilities. And absolutely
I'd
right.
like to see us consider that.
Got it. Got it.
Because the resale on those things can't be very good because everybody else has the same problem with them. But if we can keep them in the yard and,
That's right.
then maybe we can save a couple bucks. So.
Well,
Got it. Good point.
are we banking on that money from a sale already?
Not with these 2 vehicles. They've been used quite well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Got it.
All right, anything else on this item? We have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment? Okay, all those in favor state aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Damon. Okay, 5B, discussion action regarding credit adjustment for APN 3510. Jessica?
Good afternoon. We currently have a customer located at 5831 Highway 4, who is requesting a credit adjustment for the amount of $1,000.33.
Oh, thank you. Due to a leak on their property at no fault of their own. Per the district's ordinance, any leak adjustment over $1,000 requires board approval. This customer has not received an adjustment in the last 5 years and is in good standing, so we recommend that the board approves.
All right. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Second,
we have a motion and a second. Is there any board comment? Any public comment?
Just, what caused the leak? Do we?
I am not sure. Do you remember?
It was a break, infrastructure on the customer side, but they didn't realize that it was leaking until they received the bill. So normally their bill would be $150 and they received a bill that was well over $2,000. So that's when they contacted us and they immediately went out and started looking at their lines and their meter box and everything. And they did find a leak and they fixed it, but they wanted us to assist them with the consumptive charges.
Cool, thanks.
How long did it take to find the leak? And would staff have noticed the difference in bills and anything which is that good?
It literally, this is why the benefit of going to the radio read meters is going to be really vital, because right now we only bill bi-monthly. So that leak could have been happening for 60 days. We would never know. The customer would never know unless they saw something when they drive up in their driveway and actually see something. So with the radio read meters, it's going to be a lot easier for us to detect that. One, because we'll be able to set up variance logic on our side to tell us if the system thinks that there is a potential for a leak, so we can proactively contact the customer before the billing even happens. And two, the customers, eventually when we get the smart meter portal all working together with the utility billing system, that will also allow customers to have real-time access to their consumptive use as well. So in both cases, it should help us be able to, it will help us identify that. Either we proactively identify it in addition to the customer.
Rebecca, with that program, will we be able to, because these leaks are a continuous flow, and will we be able to pick those out that have a continuous flow, say, like all night long? Will we be able to flag those? I mean.
Yeah, so some of this is going to be, yes. And so some of this is going to kind of, we have to figure out what that variance logic needs to be, because we don't want to be too,
I know what you mean.
You know
don't
what I'm
wanna be
saying?
Too cautious.
too cautious, and then 90% of the meters show up as being a potential problem. So I think there's going to be a little bit of to determine what that is. And then once we can kind of identify that, I think it'll be a lot easier on both sides. But yeah, so for sure, we're looking at it from kind of a production side on our end to make sure. But yeah,
I'm not
if
sure
we-
what we picked up here, but.
if we have a lot of
Okay, is there anything else from the board? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to reports. May 2021 operations and engineering, David?
Hello again. So we had a pretty active May. And it's usually starts as we like to begin in the Valley Springs, Rancho Calaveras area. So you can see here, we replaced a broken ARD and associated ball valve on Gill Ranch Road. The picture on the left depicts a broken Schedule 80 PVC ball valve. And on the right, we went ahead and replaced that with a brass gate valve and then a new air relief valve, which is the mechanism on the top. So in that little black ball right before the 90 or the L shape is a little float. And as water pushes up, it closes off that opening with the float. And as air escapes, the little ball float drops and it allows the air to escape. Next slide. So this is not an archaeological dig. This is Baldwin, another service line repair on Baldwin. You can see the water, there's quite a bit of pressure on this service lateral. On the left, you can see it pushing up pretty good. And then on the right is the little gleaming image in the darkness is the full circle clamp repair. Next slide, please. So this is an interesting one. So last month, I showed you some pictures of a rehabilitation of a pressure reducing valve vault on Baldwin and Mann. And this is the small control valve on, so you have a high flow line, a 6-inch line, or a 4-inch line, usually 6, and then a low flow, which is the 2-inch line. So this is the control valve for the 2-inch. Staff pulled the old one out, which is on the left, and they cleaned it up, which is the picture on the right, and then they started to replace parts. So if you advance to the next slide, you can see the picture on the left is basically like a pilot control system. So they're basically mocking up the pilot control system onto the cleaned up valve and determining whether or not they need to replace it or put in a new one. Something you don't often get to see is the image on the right is the bonnet taken off of that small control valve. And what you see is a diaphragm, a gasket, we call it a diaphragm on the outside, the black rubber on the outside. And then in the middle is the actual seat of the valve. It's the valve itself. So that valve floats on a riser and the water pushes underneath that gasket and is controlled by those pilot controls. So when you have a failure yeah, you read my mind, Rebecca, I love it. So the image on the left, when you have a hole in that gasket, you can get equalized pressure on either side of the valve. And that's how an area of high pressure That's how a pressure reducing valve can fail. An area of high pressure is equalized because there's a hole in that diaphragm, so that area of separation no longer exists and the pressure flows from one side to the other. And that's when you all get telephone calls from customers that say, oh, my water heater's blowing up. So the image on the right, you can see that all the pilot controls have been replaced, the valve has been rebuilt, and then it would be placed back into service. And then you can see on this image, we have a new service line install on Bergsma. So we are still installing new lines throughout the system in a lot of service areas. Next slide. So this is a really neat project that's recently been implemented at Copper Cove.
Damon, I have a question for you. I'm back on this, the new service lateral install.
Yep.
If that's a new service line, then you did a hot tap on that pipe?
We can, yeah. I'm not sure if they actually left the pipe in service when they tapped this one or if they actually shut it down. I'm not sure. But what's interesting, Director Thomas, if you look at the picture on the right, the little white box, that's the water meter. So those are the new AMI. Yeah, so that just that little box, little straight pipe underneath it with a box with a magnetic flow indicator in there.
Okay, then the fact that you could see that with dirt around it is due to the fact that the box is actually over to the left.
Yep, exactly right. Yep. So then on slide number 8, you can see that this is the SCADA system upgrade to the Copper Cove water and wastewater system. So the system on the left has been in since the early 2000s. It's called Wonderware, and it's basically like the interface for the operations and collection staff to the infrastructure out in the field. The image on the right is what's called ignition. So those are all wastewater lift stations in Copper. And so you can look at those at a glance and you can see flow, you can see the volume, you can see which pumps are on or off. You can see how they flow within and throughout each other. If you move to the next slide, Becca, you can see that this is the one aspect of the water treatment system. So you can see the original design, the flow path on the left, and then the newer one on the right, which is more accurate. And you can actually see how water flows from Lake Tulloch into the two ozonation towers, through the filters and out into distribution. Next slide. And here's just another image of an overview screen for Copper. But operations staff are really happy. It's very user friendly and it provides a lot more components that staff can take a look at a glance. Yeah.
Are we going into all districts with this?
That is the long-term plan, yes. Yep.
But, it's best done in Copper Cove at this time.
So if you all recall, when we were in the midst of PSPS in 2019, the SCADA system, which was what those images are, the interface for the operators to run the facilities, it kept dropping out. And every time the power would fail and we would transfer over to generator, it would drop out even more. And so we said, this system, it's 15 years old, it's kind of falling apart. So we had a little pony generator that we would run the SCADA system on, so it would never drop out. But we had to refill it like every 45 minutes while we were running the facility with the large generator, just because there was an issue with the reliability of the SCADA system. So that's why Copper was picked as the #1 candidate for replacement. But and some of those other Wonderware systems are somewhat younger. So as they start to age, we will move forward with Ignition, which is what that new software is called.
Who gets it next?
It's more than likely going to be Arnold Wastewater.
Oh, great. Glad to hear that.
Yeah.
But we are accepting bribes from the board members.
Yeah. Exactly. So this is an image you don't really get to see very often. This is some of the work completed by our electrical department. So this is disconnecting a motor on a pump. This is copper raw, and this is a lockout tagout. So the image on the right shows that the electrician has actually shut the breaker off, locked it, and put a tag on it with his name and the date that it was locked out, just to ensure that somebody can't accidentally walk in, kick the power on, and then somebody goes and tries to run the pump or touches one of the wires and it's hot. So I just thought it's something interesting to show that Safety is always at the forefront of our folks' mind.
Damon, back to that software, the SCADA software.
Yeah.
Do we have to, it's licensed at every single computer or every single location? Or how does that work? I mean, it seems like when you buy new software, you can use it where you want to.
Right.
But is the licensing for this, how is that set up?
So with Ignition, which is the new software, we can all access it. So you could have a session, right? You could be in there looking at, oh, let me look at this tank and let me look at this level and let's check the flow rate. And I could then log in and you wouldn't know it. We could have multiple sessions going on. Ignition's very accepting like that. Wonderware, which is kind of the old guard, so to speak. We only have one license for each system. So if you were in there and trying to make adjustments and checking flow and, hey, I'm going to adjust the chlorine here and I'm going to watch it for 5 minutes and see what it does. And I jumped in and was like, man, I wonder what's going on over there in Scott's plant. All of a sudden you'd see the mouse move and you'd see me change the screen and you'd like, what are you doing? And you'd text it, hey, is that you? No, it's Damon over here. So this provides a lot more flexibility.
Like I was more asking about different locations. I mean, once you buy the software, in Copperopolis, you can't use it in Jenny Lynn?
Well, right. So it's somewhat of it's a site specific software that you buy components for. So for Ignition, we're going to sell you this site for copper because it has 2 filters. It has X amount of effluent pumps. And so we're going to give you a price based on the infrastructure there that we have to monitor. So that's always going to be different at each facility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damon, you were pointing at virtual locations. So is this an interactive screen that you're working with, or?
Yes.
Wow.
So Rebecca, if you could go back to that slide, I don't know, 9 or 10. So all of the images on the right, you can actually click on. So I could click on each tank. I could click on the filter and then it's going to open up a new window and it might tell me the recipe for treatment of the filter. It might say it's going to backwash every 100 minutes.
But you don't do that with your fingertip, you do it with your mouse.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yes, at some point in time, right, we need to get the hologram where we can like, move it out of the way.
It's on the wish list.
Right, yeah.
That's next budget.
Yeah, it's very cool. So if we could move.
Trending, I think Wonderware does that too, but
Yeah.
trending is another key component of those systems where you can, when you're troubleshooting, you can look back in time at where each of those levels have been and figure out, kind of recreate historically what happened. And it's, yeah, I think really.
Wonderware sounds like women's.
Yeah.
An undergarment?
So I think at our last meeting, there was a question of, do our mechanics reuse truck beds and service bodies? And this is an image showing the mechanical staff taking taking a service body off an old truck and putting it on a truck that's might not be as old, but it runs a heck of a lot better. Next slide. And here's an image of one of those control valves I described for you earlier in the imagery. You can see the picture on the left are 2 of our mechanics working on installing the pilot controls and adjusting and setting a control valve, which is on the discharge side of a pump. And then the image on the right is a headwork screen at Arnold Wastewater being installed by the mechanical crew. And then the next few pictures illustrate the construction crew's work effort to replace the 29-year-old 270 kW generator at the Hunters Water Plant with a nearly new 550 kW generator. And so you can see kind of where the old generator used to live is the image on the left. And then the grading that was done by the Mini-X, the image on the right. And then if you could advance to the next slide, Becca. So crews poured a slab, ran the electrical in there, poured a slab for the fuel tank and a slab for the generator. And there they are after being nicely screed. The next picture. And so then here's an image of a great all moving the diesel tank to set it, and then the generator arriving on the trailer. And then slide 19, you can see that We rented a great all to pick that 550 kW up, and then we placed it on slide 20. I think it's going to show us under the overhang in front of the effluent building. And then our electricians came in and reconnected it. And now it is up and it's in operation. We tested full. So for the last many years, when the power would fail at Hunter's, we didn't have full operation of the treatment facility. We had to make sure these pumps didn't turn on because it would be an excessive power draw. So now we can run the whole plant.
You know, and I can just imagine our field forces are really anxious to work with all this new stuff.
I think this was a project, the construction crew, and it was mechanical, electrical, and construction all working together to set this generator. I think they're very proud of it. They did a great job. Looks really good.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is that a Convault storage container?
Yes. Yep.
And the gallons, looks like it.
That one's 1,000, and we also have another 1,000 gallon on site. Because this generator, as you can imagine, when it's running at a load, it's sucking fuel big time. Yeah.
very nice.
All right,
Any other
anything else?
questions? That's it.
That's
All right,
wonderful.
thank you, Damon.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. And
Good
your-
stuff.
In your field.
I'll relay it. Thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to 6B, General Manager's Report.
All right, just a few items. I'm glad Damon really highlighted that Hunter's generator. There's a lot of good stuff going on, but, that one in particular, that's a complex project, and really hats off to the expertise and the skill level of our crew to pull that off in-house. Cost savings for the district and better functionality. And that's after, being very creative and even locating that generator. That was not used, it was new, but it had been purchased by somebody else for a different application that then they realized they didn't need it. And so we got it at a
Yeah,
discount.
we got a good deal on it.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
whole thing from
Mhm.
beginning to end is just a really successful project. So I think actually we're gonna put a press release out on that one too. I think that's something the community should know about as well. Couple of quick updates since the last board meeting. Went to Dave Hicks' retirement party on a couple Fridays ago, which was a great event. A few of us went to, and Dave's been a good partner for us, I think. So sad to see him go, but working with Tyler Mayo, his replacement up there in Blue Lake Springs, already, and so I anticipate the good working relationship continuing into the future. We're also working with CPUD on I think it'll be a new agreement, not an amendment, it's essentially our backup water supply for West Point that we purchased from CPUD. But we call it a backup water supply, but we rely on it. I don't want that to trivialize it, because it's really, some years where we don't need it when it's a really wet year and Bear Creek is running enough. But there's a lot of years where we use at least some water, and some years where we use a lot of water, directly out of McCallmy's. That agreement is really critical. And Director Ratterman and Director Cicada have been kind of in the loop on that one and up to speed and helping get us to the finish line there. So I anticipate that being before the board on the 23rd, the next regular meeting in June for approval, and we'll get that done. That's a water supply agreement for 200 acre feet out of the McCallmy from CPUD. We've got quick update on the courtyard, the building. There's delays as there is with everything. But the building has been purchased and we paid, I think it was a 50% deposit. I don't think we're anticipating delivery now until late September. And we'll create room out here for it when it is ready to arrive. We'll have, I think, 2 weeks notice. And we're also getting engineered plans for the foundation. And then once we have all of that, we can take that to the county and get the building permits in place. The nice thing about where we're at on that is it's not like we're not up against the lease deadline on our other buildings. So there's no specific, hard deadline. So manufacturing delays are not a huge concern for us right now. And so we have some time flexibility there, but still on track and moving forward.
Yeah, we're, a couple questions on that. One, what did we do about the doors?
Did we end up doing about the doors? I think we stuck with the recommended, was it 2000s?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and ask.
Well, what I want to encourage you guys to do again is to request that he delete those, because I believe that they can do it. Delete those, and then we'll, if we have to reorder those, Series 5000 that are wind rated and just a better door, we'll just replace them.
Right.
You know, steel went up again 10, 12% this week, but we're not going to be happy with those 2000, Series 2000 doors. We're going to end up replacing them.
I know Kevin looked into it and,
But he should be able to just delete those from the agreement, and that will just come off the end balance. You know, this guy's got the same ability to do things that I do, and I don't know why he wouldn't be able to do that. So I just want to encourage you guys to look up that. And the September delivery date, I think, is optimistic. I think buildings that I ordered in the same time frame are being scheduled for October.
yeah, I think he said late September, but at this point with manufacturing, I'm not.
Well,
surprised
I
if
mean, we're
anything
getting
gets pushed.
partial orders, it's a mess, right?
Right.
It's crazy.
So we're in a good spot there because like I said, at least we don't have we're not going to get evicted from our other mechanic shop anytime soon or.
Well, I just don't think that will affect it because we ordered the building, and I think that they can delete those accessories and we can just order new ones at a different, a better door.
Okay, we'll follow up on that. Just an update, you probably are all getting the emails, but if anybody's interested in Aqua Committee assignments, that the time is now to get those. I think it's by the end of this month to send in applications for Aqua Committees. And we can send out more information if you haven't been getting those emails. And then just lastly, I think, as Damon's presentation showed, staff's been incredibly busy. In addition to all of that, moving a lot of different projects forward through engineering and operations. About to start with meters. Admin services has been really busy with Tyler implementation, among other things, and a lot of different projects moving forward at the same time. So definitely a lot of activity and a very, very busy period of time in addition to the big push right now of the budget. And we will hand out hard copies to the board today of the draft budget in preparation of the board workshop on the 15th next Tuesday, where we'll have the opportunity to really dive into it in hopes of bringing it back for approval on the 23rd. Set aside your reading time for the next couple of weeks. It's a good one. And then, but in addition to the 15th, and we can pull the board for availability offline, but I anticipate a couple of special meetings later in the month as we wrap up contract negotiations. We're probably gonna need to check in with the board on those items. So hope to have all that done by the end of the month. That's other than that, I did complete my my flow assessment of the John Day River last week, and it was fantastic. All in working order. So that's it.
All right. You got your report into the state of Oregon on that?
That's right. Yeah, it was a work trip.
All right, anything else of the general manager? Okay, board reports, Director Underhill.
Just to comment on the retirement party for Dave Hicks, it was really very nice. They had it in the old bank up in Arnold. And the new general manager, I'm very pleased to see how that they have groomed him internally, and stepped into Dave's position with no problem at all. He's been, well, of course, the agency is, well, not that small, but still, they've been grooming him and he's covered all parts of the district. And so he was qualified to be promoted, and I thought that was really great. His parents, and, you know, that was the other thing, that he's another local boy, just like we got Jessica, and they know him, they went to school together, so I think that's great, that, you know, we're grooming the children.
It's all relative, isn't
The,
it?
the young professionals, that's right. And we've made it, you know, we want to make ourselves available to Tyler to, you know, anything we can do to help support him in that transition. And, you know, they're good partners. So, we're going to be meeting with him, I think, later this week. And, you know, they've helped us out when we need help sometimes, and we're going to be available.
Yeah, they were there a few years when we needed them,
Yeah.
and so I think we're gonna be doing something with their contract shortly.
Yep, we'll be bringing that back.
Yeah,
Probably next month.
oh, okay. So, they're good partners, excellent partners. That's all I
Is
have.
that it? Director Adams?
First and foremost, I wanted to just have some kind words for Jessica and the press releases we've seen in the local papers just recently. I mean, that's great to see it putting CCWD out there in a very positive light. Also, there was another article on special districts that Rebecca Callan had some nice comments on, and our CSDA representative Dane Waddle had a bunch of comments in there as well. But it's good to see good press in the local papers. I have an Aqua JPIA Property Committee meeting on Monday. And I'm going to be following up with CPUD. They did create a ad hoc committee yesterday to study the contract with CCWD. And they're going to be having a special meeting between now and their next meeting. But and so I'm just going to be following along with that process as well. That's all I got.
Did they hire a general manager yet?
No, they have the interim.
Not yet. John Kingsbury is still the interim, and they're recruiting, I think, presently.
Director Thomas?
I have nothing to report this time.
Okay, Director Skinner?
Things to report.
Okay, I will continue that trend.
Very efficient.
Okay, next board meeting will be Wednesday, June 15th. We are going to adjourn into closed session for 9A conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, and 9B government code 54957.6 agency negotiations, general manager Michael Minkler, Stacy Lawler, Michael Jarvis regarding negotiations and employee organization SEIU local 1021. Is there any public comment on closed session today? Okay, we'll take a recess and we'll reconvene in the closed session. How's your project going? Pretty good.